I wanted to do another video about MRG Exams, a contractor through Optum served veterans benefits claims. Uh, I don't know the owner of MRG Exams Inc. Honestly, I haven't taken the time to look it up in Lara, but they're an Optum contractor, and I can't say much to the nurse. Um, I've only went to her once, and some of the stuff that I just, you know, I wasn't prepared. I just guessed at a lot of stuff. I didn't give her a good narrative, so she didn't have good narrative to work with. Um, I mean, she certainly didn't build a case for my hypertension, though. I mean, I'm medicated for it. There's a history there, um, but it was denied. Um, she didn't build a case for my sinusitis. If she would look at the history of the past 15 years, anywhere from 1 to 4 times a year, I'm in the urgent care or ER for sinusitis or sinusitis bronchitis. She didn't build a case for that. And I want to say build a case. It's not her job to build a case, but it's to document the evidence there. So there's an accurate, so the data, the evidence is accurately arranged for the rating, for the rating examiner. That's their job. The rating examiner looks through stuff and makes a decision. But they do write a medical opinion. Um, Her medical opinion sounds like it was scant, and that she didn't feel that my service was connected to anything. That's the way that it sounds with the rating decision I got from the claims that she did, which is a few. Then you go to her partner. His name's Trevor, and he works at the Saginaw VA. There's all kinds of unethical, corrupt stuff going on. He's friends with one of the VA cops. I met him there. That's a couple of videos back. I'm talking about them when we passed by. They were way off on the corner of the property talking some really intense thing. They saw us drive by, and they kind of tried to turn around a little bit. I mean, it could have been because they saw us. Could not be, but might be something unconscious. But I found it interesting. The fact of the matter is, somebody that claims to be a VA cop, I've never met him before. He says he's a plainclothes VA cop. Then why is he pretending to be a rating examiner? And why is he friends with the police officer at the VA that always follows us around, says we're friends, but I find that all he does is follow us around. If he's my friend, then he should have certainly, at least investigated some of the stuff that's happened to me there. He hasn't. Nobody has. Even when I hand him fraud, things that may be fraud, the initial rating, I'm like, why don't I see it anywhere on va.gov or My Health Vet, this rating decision, but yet I have this claim, this claim decision, but I don't see the decision in it reflected anywhere. This may be fraud. And he said, oh, we don't do anything with that. I'm like, this may be fraud, I'm telling you. This rating decision, my asthma, my overall service connection, nothing is there. And I call VBA and I get the runaround, and I can't get through to the real VBA. I'm getting Morley Vet Connect, a Morley group of companies spin-off that works only with the Saginaw VA. Our correction, they also do work with Ann Arbor now too. But this is not the general My Health Vet, or how you used to get regional like Buffalo, or I'm trying to remember all of them. Buffalo, Minnesota. I don't remember. There was like 4 or 5 regional call centers where you would call. I mean, it's not really a call center. You're actually getting GS 5, 6, 7, 8, 9s that work for Veterans Benefit Administration. But now you got the spinoff, the call center, My Health Vet. And that's supposed to be the way it is. But locally, we have Vet Connect, which is Morley Group of Companies. It's a spinoff. and it only helps in this region. And I find they don't help a lot. There's a small minority there that actually help. Many people there are destructive. They have an attitude. They're unprofessional. They're really vulgar. Some of them are just condescending, abusive. Um, that's just the start. But anyway, so this guy that works for MRG, so far I've had him twice. He's lied both times. The second time he tried to back himself up by taking research that's only mildly relevant to GERD and other research that actually, if he would say the truth about the research, it contradicts what he put in the decision. And no, in his rating exam, or not his rating examination, correction, his claims examination narrative, if he would look up the real studies that he was talking about, it's the opposite of what he said. So obviously he never read them. I've looked up those studies. There is a direct correlation of veterans who've been deployed to Kuwait and Iraq who have digestive problems with stomach, asthma, throat problems, esophageal. They have problems with their stomach, with gastritis, with GERD, acid reflux, which causes damage. And if it's uncontrolled, it can cause Barrett's esophagus, which is one step from dysplasia, which is the beginning of cancer. It's one step. And he's saying that he feels this has nothing to do with my deployment to the Middle East. It's not connected. But actually, they found direct evidence, a connection between many people who have GERD also have asthma. And there's a really destructive dynamic that goes on between the two. The GERD will get exacerbated, causing more stomach acid, more fumes, swelling of the esophagus, which in turn affects the asthma. It makes you have asthma attacks more easily. Your airway is more constricted. You have more phlegmatic production because of the gastritis and the overproduction of acid and the inflammation too. It kind of creates very constricting. If you got mucus in this bit of area naturally, but then you have an inflammation in the esophagus, you have mucus in an area like this. Very difficult to breathe through that small straw, the slurpy straw of a windpipe when you have mucus there. So then it will cause an asthma attack because those muscles will start to spasm and then there'll be more mucus production. And then you have the other side of this coin, this destructive dynamic, where the use of your bronchodilators, your steroids, will exacerbate the acid production and cause more acid reflux. So what you have is a destructive dynamic going on. That's the research that he didn't read. And like I said, I found this guy, he lies, he misquotes studies. Obviously, he's not as intelligent as he thinks he is because he can't read a study. And he tries to use information that the VA and VSA, Veteran Service Administration, and NIH and CDC and DOD have grabbed from veterans who've been deployed to the Middle East, to Vietnam, to Guam. Most people don't know who I was in Guam for about, I would say, static time there, actually staying there, probably about 2 months, but 2 months max. But I stayed there off and on for probably about a year or two. And Guam was a site of herbicide spraying back from 1960 something to like middle to late 1970s. So if you've been deployed to Guam, you weren't exposed to this stuff as much as you were 70 years ago. No, we're in 2025, so it would have been about, let's say the latest was 75, so about 40 to 50 years ago. But it's still there. Guam is a rocky island with foliage and trees. but largely rocky. That stuff stays there. It's just like the sand of the Middle East. This stuff stays there. And so, I mean, I've been there. I've been to a lot of places, and places where, let's see, we had leaking tank farms in a place that I used to guard. We found that there was leaks in the. We're talking like um, agricultural dryer size, double agricultural dryers. You know, you're talking about a corn bin, double or triple size of a corn bin, full of diesel fuel. Found that they leaked. They had to do a whole bunch of containment and reconstruction. I used to guard those for about 6 or 7 months, at least once or twice a week. I was there for 12 hours. um, but anyway, so this is just me. But and I can say this stuff now because it's gone. My last deployments were an entirely different theater. But so back to the people who've been to the Middle East. Um, the data shows the opposite of what this guy said. He made me get denied twice. Um, he rushes through the DBQ and gets you out of the office as soon as possible, and he lies. And he works at the VA in Saginaw. I saw him there in the administration, the VA police building. I know what vehicle he drives. Yeah, I did a little bit of reconnaissance to go back to the second time. He drives a gray plug-in hybrid. Um, and so that being said, I just want to advise people, stay away from there until they fire that guy and prosecute him for lying. A DBQ filled out by a VA contractor or a VBA contractor, that's a federal form. Lying on a federal form is a felony. He did it and nobody did a thing about it. So let the market take control. I'm just warning veterans out there, don't go there. Doesn't matter how nice they are to you or how serious or how much they're attaboy for your branch or for your political orientation or your group membership and whatever. Don't trust them. If they're going to lie on my stuff, they may very well lie on yours too. And the last thing you want is a provider to lie. Even if you get approved, yeah, 20%. Finally, I get the medication I want. Finally, I get that device that will make my life better. And I get, a little bit more income for my family. I mean, not much, considering our bodies are being destroyed. But it's something. It's better than sitting in bed and, your spouse has to carry the burden for the entire family. But sooner or later, people will find that that provider lied. And the amount of providers out there that do this, there's almost none. Because nobody wants to mess with this kind of thing. Because it puts people in prison. They're finding people all the time who are stealing people's back pay. VA employees stealing back pay. Or setting it up, like what happened to me, so you don't get back pay. They're finding these people and they're going to prison. And I hope that they learn their lesson in prison. And I hope they're a good example. I hope they don't go easy on them. No minimum security. People who are going to screw over a veteran, you deserve going maximum security. Not super max, but still maximum security. So don't go to this place. You'll see his I don't know what kind. It's kind of like the old the truck wagon. I can't remember the darn name of that thing. The truck wagon. It's kind of like one of those, only it's gray. It's a plug-in hybrid, or it may be an EV. I don't think it's an EV though, but it may be. I could be wrong. I can't remember the name of the darn. If you remember the name of that station wagon truck, they started making them briefly again in the early 2000s. Then they stopped again. I can't remember. El Camino. El Camino. It's kind of like an El Camino, only gray. It has a tonneau cover, and like I said, it's I think a plug-in hybrid or a strict, straight EV. I'm not sure, but I'm putting stuff out there because criminals should not be allowed to prosper. especially when they're destabilizing and messing up veterans' lives, you know? And when a veteran gets denied a health situation that's obviously related to their service, I don't have these issues. I don't have them in my family. So obviously it's connected to my service, and that's when some of this stuff started. And some of it I just ignored for years and years and years. And some of the stuff you can ignore with altering diet until it gets too bad that you can't anymore. And some stuff you can treat with traditional Chinese or Filipino medicine, and it will, keep things at bay for a while, but obviously not permanently. And by doing TCM and TFM, perhaps I waited too long. But anyway, stay away from the MRG exams on North Pine Road in Essexville until they go through a staff change, at least getting rid of the guy, whoever he is. He works at the VA Main in Saginaw and Weiss. So why would somebody who works at VA Main and Weiss, especially working inside the police department office, administration, also be a claims examiner? You can't do that. You cannot do that. A ratings examiner, yes, but we don't go to see ratings examiners directly. It's met as a measure, so they only look at the science. But that's a really, really bad conflict of interest. A VA employee who's also a claims examiner, you're talking about a major conflict of interest. Major. Doesn't matter whether they decide yes, approved, or no, denied. It's a conflict of interest. They shouldn't be involved in this. They should be, like Social Security does in state disability assistance programs. They use private contractors. That's all they do all day long. They're independent. They look at the science. They talk to the patient. They assess what the patient can do. In and out. That's it. Look at your issue. Listen to the narrative. Listen to the medical history. Assess you. Give you an opinion, or they may or may not give an opinion about what may happen, and they will give a recommendation to you, and they'll send you on your way, and then that's it. You'll hear from the disability, the Social Security Administration. They have panels that sort through this stuff, similar to the VA, but more people involved, more cogs. But it's more straightforward there, much more straightforward. And some of these disability examiners for Social Security or state disability administration, they're trained in forensics. They're forensic examiners. Whereas the VA, not always true. They grab a healthcare provider who's had a few classes, maybe 2 or 3 months of classes about a particular thing. I've had experience with the court system, and as a research forensic psychologist, I'm partial. Anybody who's studied forensic science of any kind, psychology, psychiatry, um, forensic family medicine, or injury, somebody who's done orthopedics, injury assessments. Um, it's very regimented. It's like the ISO 9001 of medical related litigation. That's the way it should be. Then you don't have the problem like the VA is finding out, where they have hundreds and hundreds of VA examiners that don't even know about the PACT Act. They've never read it. They think they're experts on it. You wouldn't have that if it's mandated. Oh, you want to work for us? You need to go to this class, this class, this class, get certified, then come back and see us, because we want to protect our veterans.